What does it actually take to build serious wealth in one of the most expensive, most exclusive, and most culturally specific cities on Earth? That too as a black woman. Tokyo doesn't make it easy for anyone. But these 8 women didn't just survive it. They built empires inside this city so massive that it redefined what global black wealth looks like. From a global tennis icon worth close to $60 million to a soul food restaurant that became a diplomatic institution. Here's the countdown that's going to blow your mind. Number 8. Savannah Williams, the ecosystem architect, quietly running Tokyo's startup scene. Savannah Williams doesn't have a product to sell or a brand you can buy. What she has is something arguably more valuable in a city like Tokyo: access. As community manager and event coordinator for Startup Lady Japan, she sits at the center of the capital flow for female-led businesses in one of the most relationship-driven business cultures in the world. And if you know anything about how Japan operates professionally, you already know what that kind of positioning is worth. Tokyo's business ecosystem is built almost entirely on trust networks and introductions. The idea of cold outreach barely exists here the way it does in the West, which means that whoever controls the room, whoever decides who gets visibility, who gets mentored, who gets connected to the right people, holds real institutional power. That's Savannah's role, and she's exercising it at the intersection of 2 worlds: the Tokyo Metropolitan Government and TOSBEC, where she helps design and deliver courses for international entrepreneurs trying to establish themselves in the city. Her lifestyle is deeply embedded in Shibuya's tech hub culture. High-level networking events, startup pitch nights, collaborative spaces where the next generation of Tokyo's female founders are taking shape. She's not the loudest name on this list, but in a city where your network is your net worth, the woman who builds the network tends to do just fine. And in Tokyo's relationship economy, community builder is almost always the role you hold right before launching something significant of your own. Next up, we have a woman who built her entire business around being the only person in the room who could do what she does. And Tokyo's entertainment industry couldn't function without her. Number 7. Darlene Yaya, the makeup artist. Filling a gap an entire industry refused. Here's a business insight that sounds obvious once you hear it, but apparently escaped the entire Japanese beauty industry for decades. If you're a black or brown performer in Tokyo, a dancer, a singer, a model working in the entertainment space, there is essentially nobody trained to do your makeup. Japanese drugstores don't carry the shades you need. Most mainstream stylists don't have the product knowledge or the technique. You show up to a professional shoot and you're largely on your own. Darlene Yaya, originally from Cameroon, looked at that gap and built a business inside it. Her freelance makeup brand, Yaya_Ltd, has carved out a very specific and very lucrative niche, providing professional makeup services for black and brown women in Tokyo's entertainment industry. In a market where inclusion is still catching up to demand, being the person who can actually do the job means you set your own rates. She sources all of her professional products from overseas because there's no domestic supply chain for what she needs. A logistical challenge she's turned into part of her brand story. She's been vocal about it publicly, which has positioned her not just as a service provider but as an activist entrepreneur. A label that's done nothing but grow her audience. Beyond the makeup chair, she's built a recurring media presence through NHK's Cool Japan, which adds a reliable layer of appearance fees and national visibility to her income. Her YouTube channel attracts international beauty brand sponsorships, so you've got service revenue, media income, and digital revenue all running simultaneously. In a niche she essentially created herself because the alternative was waiting for someone else to fix a problem that had been ignored for years. The next woman on this list did something similar. She spotted a gap in a market nobody was looking at and turned it into a business that's now shipping internationally. Number 6. Shenka Willingham, the e-commerce founder who moved to Japan, grieving and left with a brand. Shenka Willingham moved to Japan in 2015 to teach students connected to Yokota Air Base. It wasn't a business trip. She was grieving the loss of her mother, and the move was partly about starting somewhere new. But somewhere between arriving and settling in, she noticed something. The international community in Japan, families living far from home, kids growing up between cultures, had almost nowhere to find children's clothing that was stylish, expressive, and actually spoke to who they were. So in 2020, she launched Little Mavericks and fixed it herself. The financial structure of Little Mavericks is worth paying attention to. She self-funded the entire thing, which means she owns 100% of the equity. No outside investors, no partners with opinions, no diluted ownership. In a world where entrepreneur often means someone else's vision funded by someone else's money, Shenka built something she owns completely. Her Express Yourself bodysuit collection serves customers across Japan and internationally, and by bypassing Japan's traditional retail middlemen, the wholesalers and department store buyers who take a significant cut, her margins stay higher than most fashion brands operating at her scale. She's also been documenting the whole journey publicly through her YouTube channel, framing it as the Black-owned abroad lifestyle, which has built her a global audience that extends well beyond Tokyo. The long-term vision is expansion into major Japanese retailers like Isetan or Mitsukoshi, which would represent a significant step from e-boutique to mainstream retail presence. She dedicated the business to her mother. The fact that she's building generational wealth with it feels like the right kind of tribute. Now, we head to a woman who turned a single restaurant in one of Tokyo's most expensive neighborhoods into something that reaches the diplomatic level. Number 5. Latonia Whitaker, the soul food mogul who turned roppongi into a cultural institution. Running a restaurant in Tokyo is hard. Running one in Roppongi, one of the city's most competitive, most expensive, and most internationally saturated dining districts, for over a decade, profitably, is a different category of achievement entirely. Latonia Whitaker, co-founder of Soul Food House, has done exactly that, and what she's built in the process is something that long ago stopped being just a restaurant. Soul Food House is effectively a cultural institution. It serves as a community hub for Tokyo's international Black community, a creative venue, a media backdrop, and, perhaps most impressively, a catering operation for the diplomatic corps. When the U.S. Embassy and other international missions in Tokyo need food for their events, Whitaker's Kitchen gets the call. That's not a small thing. Catering for embassies means reliability, consistency, cultural sensitivity, and the kind of logistical trust that takes years to build. It also means contracts that are far more stable than restaurant walk-in traffic, giving her a revenue floor that most hospitality businesses don't have. Beyond the commercial side, she's a prominent figure in the Black Women in Japan network and has developed a reputation for actively supporting new Black entrepreneurs entering the Tokyo market, using her platform and her space to give other people a foot in the door. There's a version of Tokyo's success that's purely individual, and then there's Whitaker's version, which seems to run on the principle that a rising tide is something you build on purpose. Her spending reflects that too, directed heavily toward community programming and supporting other creatives rather than the conventional luxury metrics. Latonia built her wealth by building a community around it, but our next entry took a completely different path. The quiet, institutional kind, where the influence is measured in policy rooms and boardrooms rather than restaurant tables. Number 4. Maya Fischer, the corporate strategist running Tokyo's most influential diversity playbook. Maya Fischer is what Tokyo's business world calls Minato-ku elite, a reference to the central district home to embassies, multinational headquarters, and the kind of corporate infrastructure that shapes policy at a national level. As a former program manager for Amazon Japan and the U.S. Japan Council, and now the founder of her own consultancy, Global Equity Forward, Fischer operates in the space where American corporate ambition meets Japanese institutional complexity. And right now, that space is worth a lot of money. Here's the context that makes her positioning so valuable. Since 2020, demand for diversity and international inclusion. Consulting in Japan has increased by roughly 200%. Japanese corporations, under pressure to attract global talent and meet international ESG mandates, are actively looking for people who understand both sides of the equation, who know how U.S. corporate culture works, who understand Japanese organizational dynamics, and who can bridge the gap between the two without breaking either. That's a rare skill set, and Fischer has built her entire career around owning it. During her time at the U.S. Japan Council, she managed initiatives with net assets exceeding 515 million yen, which tells you something about the scale at which she's used to operating. She's also a founder of the National Association of Black Engagement in Asia, NABEA, which positions her as a genuine gatekeeper for Black professionals seeking to establish themselves in the Japanese market, a role that carries social capital that compounds over time. Her lifestyle reflects the profile: high-end educational networks, exclusive corporate memberships, and the kind of international mobility that comes with being the person that major multinationals call when they need someone who actually understands the room. Fischer's wealth is built on institutional influence. The next woman built hers on something far more personal: a 25-year career in an industry that spent years telling her she didn't quite belong in it. Number 3. Ariana Miyamoto, the beauty queen, who broke Japan's most stubborn standard. In 2015, Ariana Miyamoto became the first ever multiracial Miss Universe Japan. The backlash was immediate and ugly. Critics said she didn't look Japanese enough, that her win was somehow illegitimate, that the title belonged to someone with Japanese blood. She was literally told by classmates growing up that they wouldn't touch her because they were afraid her skin color would rub off. Think about that for a second, and then consider that she took all of that noise, walked into the Miss Universe pageant anyway, finished in the top 10 on a global stage, and used the entire controversy as the foundation for a commercial career that most models in Japan never reach. The financial mechanics of her industry are worth understanding here. A standard commercial shoot in Tokyo pays around $3,000 per day for a top-tier model. But the face of the brand contracts, exclusive, long-term agreements where a brand essentially licenses your image and identity as their primary spokesperson, can reach 6 figures annually. Miyamoto's international profile from the Miss Universe stage, combined with her very visible story of defying conventional Japanese beauty standards, made her exactly the kind of face that luxury brands looking to project a modern, diverse image wanted to attach themselves to. She gave them cultural credibility and global reach in a single package. She's also been remarkably deliberate about how she uses her platform publicly, speaking openly about racism, about the experience of growing up mixed race in Japan, about what it costs to exist visibly in a space that wasn't designed with you in mind. Following her 2022 divorce, she's rebranded as a working mother and entrepreneur, a persona that resonates specifically with Tokyo's modern female demographic in a way that's kept her commercially relevant well past the typical peak window for beauty queens. And for what it's worth, she wants a custom Harley-Davidson. Not exactly the expected ambition for a former Miss Universe Japan, which is probably the whole point. And now, the woman sitting at number 2 built her empire over 25 years in an industry that has never fully known what to do with her, and paid her extremely well in the process. Number 2. Crystal K. 25 years, 5 million records, and the most durable career in J-pop. Crystal K. Williams has been famous in Japan for longer than some of the people reading this have been alive. Born in Yokohama to an African-American father and a South Korean mother, she entered the Japanese music industry as a teenager and has been a consistent commercial force in it ever since. 5 million records sold, a string of platinum certifications, and a career that has outlasted trends, label shifts, and cultural cycles that have buried countless artists who peaked alongside her. The financial engine behind that longevity is specific to Japan's music market, which has some structural quirks that work heavily in an established artist's favor. Japan was the second largest music market in the world for most of her career, and for a long time it remained stubbornly physical. CD sales stayed commercially significant here, long after streaming had essentially killed physical media everywhere else. For an artist with consistent release output and a loyal fan base, that meant substantial royalty revenue from physical sales at a time when artists in the US and UK were watching that income stream dry up entirely. Her third album, Almost 17, sold over 400,000 copies on its own. Multiply that across a 25-year catalog, and you begin to understand the math. But what's kept Crystal K at this level isn't just the music. She's diversified across multiple entertainment verticals in a way that most artists don't bother with. Musical theater, leading roles in major productions like Pippin. Voice acting, contributions to global franchises including Pokémon and Happy Feet 2. Brand ambassadorships targeting the sophisticated Tokyo female demographic in her age range. She spent 2 years in New York between 2013 and 2015, reportedly to work through an identity complex she'd carried for years about not having Japanese blood, despite being born and raised in the country, speaking the language natively, and building her entire career inside its culture. That period seemed to resolve something for her. She came back and has been operating with a quieter, more settled authority ever since. Her lifestyle is understated luxury. Sophia University educated, embedded in Tokyo's high-end social circles, and genuinely beloved by the Hafu community in a way that no amount of marketing can manufacture. But while Crystal K built 25 years of staying power, our #1 woman built something on a completely different scale. We're talking about someone with a $60 million earnings peak, a media company co-signed by LeBron James, and a skincare brand filling a gap that Tokyo's beauty giants spent decades ignoring. Number 1. Naomi Osaka, the most valuable personal brand in Japanese sports history. Naomi Osaka is the most commercially powerful black woman in Tokyo's history, and it's not particularly close. Her net worth sits at approximately $45 million, but the number that actually tells the story is her annual earnings at peak, close to $60 million in a single year, driven almost entirely by an endorsement portfolio that bridges two worlds. Most brands can't navigate simultaneously: the traditional Japanese corporate establishment and the global youth market. That combination is extraordinarily rare, and she's the only person positioned to occupy it. Start with the Japanese side. Osaka holds long-term partnerships with Nissan, Panasonic, Sony, and Yonex, the kind of industrial titans whose endorsement relationships are built on decades of institutional trust and don't typically extend to young athletes, let alone young black female athletes, in a country where that profile has historically had almost no commercial precedent. Then layer on top of that her global luxury partnerships: Louis Vuitton, Tag Heuer, and a series of Western brands that see her as the bridge between Japanese cultural credibility and international aspiration. The combined value of those two portfolios, running simultaneously, is what pushed her annual earnings to numbers that most professional athletes, across any sport, never approach. But here's what makes the Osaka story genuinely interesting beyond the endorsement figures. Starting in 2024 and accelerating through 2025, she pivoted from being a brand for hire to building equity-based businesses of her own. Her media company, Hana Kuma, was co-founded with her longtime agent and developed in strategic partnership with LeBron James' SpringHill Company, giving it both the creative infrastructure and the industry muscle to operate at a serious level. In September 2025, Hana Kuma expanded through a collaboration with Revolt Sports to produce lifestyle content focused on diversity and representation. That's not a brand deal. That's ownership of a content pipeline that appreciates over time. Then there's KINLÅ, her skincare brand addressing the specific dermatological needs of people with melanin-rich skin. This is a market that Tokyo's cosmetic giants in Ginza and Omotesando had effectively ignored for years, leaving a gap that she stepped into with the full weight of her personal brand behind it. In August 2025, she finalized the sale of her Los Angeles estate for $7.95 million, a property she'd personally redesigned to include a professional-grade gym and spa. She maintains exclusive access to Tokyo's most elite hospitality venues. She funds her own Naomi Osaka Tennis Academy. She took a public stand on mental health at the French Open that genuinely changed the global conversation about what elite athletes owe the media. She took maternity leave in 2023 and came back in 2024 with a brand evolution that reframed her from young phenom to something more durable, a mogul and a mother who has figured out how to win in rooms that weren't built for her. The blazon identity, Black and Asian, that Osaka embodies sits at the center of two of the most globally influential cultural spheres right now, and she's turned that intersection into a commercial and creative platform that no one else has access to in quite the same way. Whether she's on the court or off it, she's operating at a level that makes her not just the richest black woman in Tokyo, but one of the most strategically positioned athletes on Earth. And that's a wrap on the 8 richest black women in Tokyo. Which one of these moguls impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments, and for more such interesting peeks into how black wealth and prospering around the world, take a look at Black Status.